That takes care of the layer effects. Let's talk filters now. So the idea of filters is you're trying to modify some picture to make it look better or worse than what you had before, and you want to be able to play with those filters to get a particular resulted effect. Okay. So you're playing around with filters to get a particular result or a particular effect out of what you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a picture. This is part of our class files. That way, if you want to follow along, you can. Let's go to lectures. We're going to go to lecture 7. Now, see, we're in lecture number 7. We got 8, 9, 10, and 11 to get through. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more weeks before we get into the full-on building of projects. Make sure for those of you who have not gotten these labs in, get these labs in place because those labs are graded, and so they are part of a grade. You need the lab, meaning the lab report and the files. Preference is to put it all into a zip file and submit it into the lab submission. That's the preference. If you haven't done that yet, get on the ball and get that happening because it's about to get time where the grades are going to become more permanent. I won't be able to change them after a while and update, from late work. And then when it comes to the projects, there is no such thing as late work. You turn them in on time or you don't turn them in, and they are a significant part of your grade. So get yourself, on the ball if you're not doing it. So Star Battles is the folder that's inside of, let me go back here because I tangented for a second. So in the lecture 7, there's going to be class files that will be there in the Blackboard. Star Battles is inside of there for you to, there's a bunch of different things in here that you can access to play with. One of them is this project, this Star Battles project is creating like this holographic effect um, using these files here. And this is the PDF that'll kind of explain to you the steps. This is an old tutorial using, I think, Photoshop 6. So the settings will still be there. They may not be in the exact spot where they're talking about. If you want to follow through and make exactly what they want you to make out of there, you should still be able to do it. I'm not going to go that far, but what I am going to do is we're going to open up this picture of Rainbow Leia first. And I'm going to quickly select her and then put her on her own layer with that selected mask as quickly as I can. I just want to show you what I can do. Now, before you get started with doing your selections, analyzing a picture, um, this cosplayer is in this, cool looking outfit with the gun and her hair, her skin color, and this white outfit, and she's against a white background. That's a problem. Not necessarily a bad problem because the whites are kind of still distinct from each other, so the computer should be smart enough to try to help you. But look down at the boots, right at the front of the boots. That white is a little close to the background color. So I'm telling you this because a lot of times any of the tools that you have here that makes it fast and quick for a selection may not work well when you have non-contrasting colors. So when the colors are kind of low contrast, like down by the boots, may not work as well as up here by the hair or over there by the gun with making the selections. Just so you're aware. So now I'm going to go to select and I'm going to choose select subject. It should select pretty much because she's the only thing in this picture that would be a subject. It should be able to pick her, her hair, the gun, the dress, the boots, the skin, everything, the belt should be selected pretty well. Up here by the hand, it's a little garbled. I'm looking at the little grubby bits of, that didn't get picked up that well, but going around and looking around, it got around the belt, it got around the dress, got around the legs, got around the boots, actually. It did a pretty good job around the boots. It just didn't get right there at the heel. You see right there at the heel there, didn't get picked out, but that's okay for what we're doing with this. I'm happy enough because I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole with fixing a lot of things, but now I can move to the next step, which is going to select and mask. Most pictures that you will get if they're shot like in studio, they're shot against some type of one color background that does not match the outfit or the clothes or the products, colors. So that way you can do this fairly easy without a lot of extra steps. But once I get in select and mask, this is where I'm zooming in closer and I'm moving around and looking at different parts of this. And I probably need to change the color. Let's change the color of my overlay so that way I can better see what is and is not selected. So looking at, the gun, looks like everything was kind of done pretty well. I can, right around the finger and the trigger there, that didn't get picked out. In between these little slots up there at the top of the gun, that didn't get picked out. So I can go through with the quick select tool, maybe, and see if I can make a small size. Oops. Things again are moving slow, so that's why I don't want to spend too much time here. But I can see if I can click and drag across there to take that out of the selection. Did I do that right? No, didn't do that right. Let me do it again. Yeah, see, it works a little bit, but not like I want to, like I'm satisfied with. I would have to go back and forth with that a lot, but I don't want to take forever because that's not the point of what I'm trying to show you here. The finger, that's a problem. So I need to add that to the selection, which again, same tool. I can go across there and I can pick up her finger pretty easily with a click and drag. But in between the fingers, same issue that I got there over at the gun. I'd have to spend a little more time painting. If the quick select doesn't work well, then that's where you move to the brush tool, where you can manually brush that in. And again, you can zoom in close. Uh, in this interface, you can zoom in pretty close, so that way you can paint in and paint out things with a lot more detail than you could when you were not in this interface. All right, so I'm going to just say that this is done. This is not done, but for right now, it is done because I want to move on to the next thing and show you what needs to be done here. Um, Global refinements, again, this is something that you could play around with to do like, increase in contrast or smoothness and playing with the feather and maybe the shift edge piece of it, just to try to get, something to look a little more, useful and fruitful with everything. Feel free to do so. Decontaminate colors, definitely not on something like this because that's just not that distortion that will happen from it. I don't like it, and I don't really need to do it. Outputting too. I'm going to output this to a new layer with a layer mask. This is important because I don't want to mess up the original background layer that I have. I want to make a duplicate of that and then create a new layer mask on top of that new layer. So I do all those choices. I hit OK, and boom. Now I have Leia sitting here on by herself without the background behind her, and I'm ready to move to the next stage, whatever that may be. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn her into, I don't know, more of a painting, like an oil painting kind of thing. But I'm also gonna make it look more like an illustration more than a painting. I'm gonna apply a series of filters to not to this layer directly, but to another layer that I'm gonna make in another file. I'm gonna show you how to do that quickly. So that way you have stages at which you build things. So if you mess up at one stage, you can easily throw that away and back up and start over in your process. Sometimes it's best to work that way so you don't make any huge colossal mistakes. Um, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this layer, right click on it, and duplicate the layer. Now, when I duplicate the layer, I'm going to have the ability not only to give it a name, Leia for Leia, but I can also choose which document I want it to go to. In this case, I want to make a new document. I want to make a brand new document. I'm going to give that brand new document a name. I'll call it Leia Cartoon just to put a name to it. By doing that, when I hit OK, what ends up happening is I have the original JPEG file that I can hold on to, save as a Photoshop file. If I need to come back and get to this and edit and all that sort of thing, I can do so. But I really don't need it anymore because let me just close it and not save it. Now I have the Leia cartoon, which is just her by herself on her own layer, no background layer, and it's just her sitting here like so. Now, applying filters. I'm going to show you the bad way first, and then I'm going to show you the better way. The bad way is applying a filter directly to the layer. When you apply a filter directly to the layer, it's a destructive process. So unless you undo it immediately, you're not going to get back to your original data. What do I mean by that? Under my filter menu, I'm going to go down to, let's say, something bad like distort. And I'm going to go to something completely terrible. Let's go to ripple. By the way, before I click on ripple there, all of these filters here under the filter menu are image distortion filters. You will notice that some of them will have three dots next to them, and some of them will not have three dots next to them. The ones with the three dots means that there's a dialog box that's going to pop up and let you make changes. Without the three dots, it's just going to apply the filter, and you have no choice on what it does, on what it looks like. So be careful about your choices. There are a bunch of choices here. They all do different things. At no point in time will you ever use all of them in any of your career. But you will find some that you will use more often than not, just because of the routine of what you have to do with your job. And then there's most of them, it'll be stuff to play with, like Ripple here. This creates this kind of rippled water, kind of like immersed in water kind of effect that applies, and you have an amount that you can apply it. So this way you can really distort things. You could change the size, small, medium, and large. From this ripple effect, you can go positive or even negative in their direction. Now, this particular filter doesn't have a preview. So right underneath the cancel button, there would usually be a preview checkbox. So you could see the effect applied on your image before you actually apply it. Most filters will have this preview box that you can click and drag in and kind of move around the picture, at that's zoomed in at 100%, that you can kind of zoom around and kind of see what you're done, what you've done to things before you hit OK to apply it. Now, once you hit OK to apply the results, you get the resulting effect. Good or bad, that's what you got. Um, like I said, this is the destructive way of applying the filter. At no point in time can I get back and change this filter's settings. So if I don't like it, I can't change it. And what I would have to do is immediately edit and undo to turn that off to start over again. If I applied a series of filters and then realize the third one out of the fifth one, I'm down to filter number 5, and I realize the third one doesn't look right or does not applied right, I can't do anything about that except undo all the way back to before I applied that third filter and redo it and re-go all over again. That became a problem because people were doing things like this. They would duplicate the layer and like say duplicate it with the ripple, and then they would apply that ripple filter, right? And then that's cool. And then they would make another duplicate, and this will be ripple plus blur. So then they can go and on that new duplicate layer, they can go apply one of these blurring filters, like say Gaussian blur, which this does have a preview, so I can see what it applies directly to the image. So I can apply not only a ripple, but I can apply the blur filter at the same time. So I can get that, and I can see what that looks like. And what I would have is a whole bunch of extra layers that I don't need. But it would have it at different, stages of the effect. So that was a problem. because people with slower computers or what have you would have all these layers floating around for no reason, and it would just become a mess. So, how do you fix that? Well, you fix it by one simple thing. You turn the layer into what is called a smart object, or you activate your smart filtering. What in the hell is that? Well, if you right click on the layer instead of duplicate, you'll see convert to smart object. If you go to your filter menu, you'll see where it says convert for smart filters. Both of those are meaning the same thing. You're converting your layer into something that's a protected thing where the filters are going to look like layer effects. So the way I made the layer styles and applied the layer styles, and I can see the layer styles underneath, and I can reapply and go back and make changes at any time. I'm going to be able to do the same thing now with these filters. So if I convert to a smart filter, you'll get this little message here first time ever doing this, like, hey, in order to do this, you got to convert the layer into a smart object. Is that okay? Of course, it's okay. What's going to end up happening? The layer that you had the mask on, right? The layer mask is going to look like it disappears. It doesn't. It's there. I'll show you where it went to. And you're going to get this little icon right there on the thumbnail just to indicate that this is now a protected smart object. That's it. That's all there is to it. Um, but what's cool is that now that same ripple and that blur effect that I wanted to do, I can go to filter, I can go to distort, I can go to ripple, and without even changing the numbers, these are the same numbers as before. Hit OK. It's going to apply that. I can go to filter, I can go to blur, I can go to Gaussian blur. Same numbers as I had before. Just hit OK and apply that. What ends up happening is on that layer, I'll get this little extra thing that's called a smart filter. We'll come back to see what that is. And you'll have the two filters, Gaussian blur and ripple, sitting there in the order at which I applied them. Now, just like layer effects, if I want to change any one of those filter applications, I just double click on it. You'll get a little warning telling you that the other filter applications are going to be turned off while you're in the process. But I can change things and reapply that filter so that way it's not applied so heavily, or maybe I make it heavier. The Gaussian blur, I can blur this up a little bit more and apply the filter a little bit more. Until I get to something I'm satisfied with. So I always have the ability to come back to it. As long as this layer exists, and even in my saved file, I'd be able to come back and do these changes over and over again until I'm happy with what I get. Once I'm happy with what I get, then I can move over to whatever the next evolution is. Now, this thumbnail here of this white box that says smart filters next to it, what is that? This is called a filter mask. I'm going to zoom in closer to her face to show this particular effect. So I got that distortion filter of ripple and the Gaussian blur applied to this entire picture, but I really don't like it applied to her face. I want to be able to see her face a little bit more, even though everything else is the way it is. So here's where you can have some fun. It is a filter mask. So masking means that if I paint with black, I will hide. If I paint with white, I will reveal. That's the rules with masking. So if I go to my paintbrush tool, pick a brush type, and what's a good one? I want to pick one of these artistic brushes. Actually, no, I'm going to pick one of these this soft round brush first, just to show you what it's going to look like, and then you could be fancy if you want. Colors. I want to make sure black is my top color. If you're not quite sure, hit the letter D on your keyboard to get your default two colors, black and white, and then you can hit the letter X to switch the colors as you need to, back and forth between black and white as you feel you need it. In your options bar up at the top, make sure that your blend mode is set to normal, opacity is at 100, flow is at 100, smoothing is somewhere around the tens, which is up to you if you want to keep it that way. But what I'm going to be able to do now, if I paint with black on this filter mask, it will hide the filter effect. So over her face, I can paint the effect away from her face. I don't know about you, but I always thought that was kind of a cool thing. And why am I getting this marching ant thing going on here? That is annoying. Am I on the wrong tool? I'm on the correct tool, the brush tool. I don't know why the marching ants are popping up like this. That's new. And it's not actually there. I'm doing Control D and it's not actually, yeah, select and deselect. So glitch in the matrix. Something is going on with my computer acting out. That's not anything, some new feature. So again, if I paint over something that I want a little clearer, I can just mask away and basically painting away the effect from that spot. If I change my mind, I just reverse the process, just paint with white, and the filter distortion comes all the way back. If I paint with turning my opacity down on the brush, so I'm not painting 100%, uh, then same thing, but it just comes back at small amounts instead of the full bear. All right, now why is that? I don't know why this is doing that. That is weird that it's doing that there. Uh, I don't know why that is happening because that is not the norm. Hmm. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, back to what I was talking about here. Now, why go through this? Well, here's what's fun. You have a lot of options that get opened up. You can apply filters to a layer that's protected and keep reapplying over and over again until you get something that you're happy and satisfied with. And it's still being applied. The smart filter layer here, or the smart filter layer mask or filter mask, allows you to selectively take away that filter effect gradually in different places. So that hologram effect, you can kind of recreate that here with just one layer instead of the multitude of layers that they have you do in the tutorial, because this feature didn't exist before. That's why I gave it to you, so that way you can review and see how that works and see if you want to do the same resulting effect. All right. Next thing to this. Let's say I don't like the Gaussian blur. I don't like that ripple effect. I want something that's a little more on the artistic vein of things. There is under stylize this one that's called oil paint. That's kind of cool. Now, what this filter will do is it's going to give kind of a painted effect. And usually in the preview that's in the filter, you want to probably go to the person's face, kind of see the details in their face based on what you're putting together there. You have things like a stylization, a cleanliness, a scale of the brush that you're using, the bristle brush detail that you want to mask or show. And then you have this lighting that'll bring a texture out. Um, where you have like an angle and a shininess factor that you can play with. They kind of get a texture to come out to make it look like those old school oil paints, paint effects that you would have from some of those older paintings. Here's me though, because when you tinker, you kind of discover things that can be kind of fun. I would turn the lighting part off. The stylization and the cleanliness, I would play with. The scale and the brush detail is ignored once you turn the lighting off because that is factors in with the lighting. So I don't need to worry about that. But what I'm trying to do here is between the stylization and the cleanliness, I'm trying to see how I can distort the picture where it still looks like the picture, but things get kind of smoothed out as far as the details of the face and things like the hair details and things like that is smoothing out. Now, why am I doing that? Well, eventually I'm going to turn this into what looks more like a painting. So I'm creating what is called the underpainting right now, which is just the basic block shapes without a lot of detail put in place. So now I'm just trying to figure out, just by looking at these different stylization options here, which one do I want to use? Because you like one over another. There's no formula to this. It's just what you look at, what you like. And I'm going to be happy with this right now. So I hit OK. It applies that to the picture. Again, it's going to look like not much has happened, but a lot has happened. And as a matter of fact, hold on. Let me fill this filter mask back with white real quick. Yeah. Uh, so I got the oil paint filter applied, and then I'm going to do it again. So I'm just going to go back to filter, go back to stylize, and I'm going to go back to, oh, can I apply it again? I thought I could apply it again. Oh, no, I can't. I forgot. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't do that. I got to do that to another layer. That's fine. Um, what I was going to show you is applying the same thing, multiple filters. Some filters you can apply multiple times to the same layer. This is one of them that I cannot do that to. But what I can do is go here under sketch. And is it sketch or is it, hold on, I'm in the wrong place. When you try to show off and try to show off things and then you forget the order at which you applied this. Artistic. Under artistic is where I want to go. And I want to go to poster edges. Now, poster edges is going to almost give me a comic book type feel. It's going to open up this extra dialogue box that they call whoops, I'm in the wrong. I did not have the picture selected when went into this. It goes into this thing that's called a filter gallery. So it's up here at the top, filter gallery. But if you go to any of the filter gallery elements and try to apply, it opens up the filter gallery for you. Now, what does the filter gallery do? The filter gallery allows you to apply multiple filters to the same one thing over and over again. So that way, instead of applying each filter one at a time, you can do it all at once inside the gallery. And you don't have all the filters that were there under that filter menu. You got a good amount of them. The ones that will actually kind of work together, they give you to you as this kind of long list to kind of go through. So the one that I picked is under this artistic section, and it is called poster edges. This one is used a lot to create what you're looking at, what looks kind of like a comic book kind of look to this photo. Well, it's a photo, but it kind of has that comic booky kind of illustration look because you got these nice dark lines going around the different edges and that sort of thing. And it's kind of simplifying the colors by doing a thing called posterization. So posterization is another way to simplify the colors down. So the oil paint filter that I applied simplified a lot of the details and smooth a lot of the hard details out. And then this, depending on what I, set myself to with the edge intensity and the edge thickness. Usually, depending on what you're trying to get out of the final result, you're going to figure out the balance between the edge thickness and the edge intensity. One is going to be higher than the other in what you're doing to get you the details that you want, which is kind of a neat little fun thing to do. Oh, that looks terrible. Even just a little bit with that edge intensity. That edge thickness, even the smallest amount, it goes kind of haywire. All right, so I'm not done with this because I want to do one more thing in here while I'm here. Um, Bottom of the interface, there's a little plus sign inside of a square that allows me to make something new. It allows me to create another filter. It starts with the same one poster edges, but I can change it to another option within this, group of elements here, or go to one of these other sections and apply something else, to it. And some of these things are kind of cool looking for what it does, and some of these things are terrible. It just depends on what you pick, really, because there's no one that's any better than another. You just got to see what is going to give you the resulted effect that you want. Um, and this could get kind of fun. And this is just stuff to play with. Like when I do the poster edges, I like doing this. I like applying under sketch here, this halftone pattern. The halftone pattern is what you get, from the Ben-Day dots, as they call them, that you see in the old classic comics, where you get this little dot, dot resulted effect. Usually the dots are small, and you can increase the contrast or decrease it, depends on the details that you want to get out of everything. And you can even pick the pattern type. So instead of dots, they could be just a series of lines, or it could be a bunch of circles for the look, which is like concentric circles flowing from the center out. I like the dots kind of concept. That looks kind of cool to me, that I can pick from. Now, the other thing is the order. The stack order of these two, poster edges and halftone pattern, you can actually change that stack order around, and it may change the way everything looks, good or bad, but you can kind of see and review which one you like better when it applies. I kind of like this one, and you can move from there. Now, again, you're not done, because you can make as many of these as you feel that you need to with the results, and you can go and apply so many different extra things to this that it can get, I won't, well, I never say get annoying, but it can get fun, because you're applying um, a bunch of elements one at a time to something, and seeing what you get as a result. And sometimes the result is fairly cool. Sometimes the result is terribly bad and you don't like it. So you just got to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And this is the thing that, if you did your job making the selections like you were supposed to, and you did that, you have time to kind of play around with some of these to try to get this to look the way you want it to look. And then when you're happy with it, you hit OK. Boom, there you go. You have your design, you know. So now I have this kind of comic book structure of her, that kind of looks like she came out of a comic book, you know. But there's no color. So what do I do with that? Here's where this whole thing can get a little bit more fun in the extraction. I can duplicate this layer, this whole layer, and let's say I call it layer color. Has everything that was in the previous one, but here's the fun parts. I can turn off that whole smart filter and remove it, so that way it's just her back in full color, but I don't have all that texture and everything in there. Well, that's fine, because all I want to do is just change the blend mode of the layer. I'm going to change the blend mode of that layer down to hue or color. Usually one of those two is going to work the best. You could probably do overlay as well. That could work, because overlay is kind of cool, but you got all these different blend modes that you could pick from, and no one is any better than another. It's just, what do you want to see as far as the resulting effect? And I don't know about you, but I always see that this is kind of a cool thing to play with, you know? and it gives you a lot of versatility to work, your creative process. Yeah. So like hue is kind of like hue, well, not hue, but color and overlay seems to be the standard two choices, but I'm going through I usually go through all of them to kind of see what happens. Let's look at this with darker color. Just little pops of color in different places. Um, in comparison. And you're still not done because even if you found something like whoops, God, dog it, just had it. Yeah, I'll use the color dot. So like even if you have this, you can still turn the opacity down. So that way it's not fully 100% applied. So you can kind of tone down the extra with the color to put it more in a reasonable range. And you still get the texture to come out. So you don't see it, but I'm smiling because this is something that you can play with all day and it could be so much fun. Now, um, the layer mask, because I know it's probably in some people's heads, the fingers there. I need to get and fix that layer mask to get the fingers fixed right. Now that I've done all this, I created this cool masterpiece. Now I want to get that done right. So what do I do? Well, if you double click onto the thumbnail of a protected layer, what you will get is a completely separate file that opens up. That's a PSB file. All right, PSB, I forget what it normally PSB files were used for big, large files. So if I needed a poster that was 18-foot by 20-foot banner that needed to be created, I could not save that as a PSD file. I would save it as a PSB file, which is Photoshop large format, to be able to send to whomever. So that way they had this large format file that would be compressed down and then it decompresses when it comes to their side. They also figured out that when you protect the layer, it creates this PSB file here, which allows you to have all the features that you had before you protected the layer. So all the information you had in that layer before you protected it, still sitting here. So if you applied something like this layer mask, I can now double click on the layer mask thumbnail. I can now jump into the selected mask feature when it finally pops in, and I can go up there and I can fix her finger, or and fix the blaster and any other places that didn't quite get right, with painting in or painting out. I can now, do those things and make that fix um, as I see fit. And it's just my computer is running slow. Is it even doing it? Come on, man. I don't even think my computer's responding anymore right now. Hmm. Oh, now it's going. But I can make that change and make that fix. I'm not going to try it because it looks like it's just going to take forever. But the main thing is that when I come back over here before I hit OK, this output two, I need to change it to layer mask. So that way it updates the existing layer mask and not trying to change, anything else. I'm not trying to make a whole new layer with a new layer mask. I'm just trying to update the layer mask that's already there. Um, so that way I get that new change happening. Now I'm going to show you something else that's kind of cool that I really dig with this whole thing here. If I go file and I'm going to do place embedded here for this, I'm about to do some inception type of stuff here. So bear with me for a second. I am going to find, it's not inside of Star Battles. It's going to be in one of the other lectures. Um, Where is it? In the selections. Did I give y'all the picture of the young lady with her hair? Yeah, this picture here. I want to use this picture. And I'm just going to place this into this file. Let's scale it up to be bigger so it covers the entire file area here. So now it's covering up the picture of Leia, right? Uh, it's inside this PSB file. So what I'm going to be able to do is have that picture instead of Leia being here. All right, in the final, I'm going to have this picture be here. What? How do you do that? Well, as soon as I bring this in as another layer and it's over top of this picture, all right, whatever I put inside this PSB file is going to exist in the protected layer. All right, so in those protected layers, those smart objects that I created in this file here uh, is this PSB file. So if I make new changes inside the PSB file, save and close, it's saving. Save and close. Once it closes up, come on, close up. When I get back over here, look at what happened. All right. Both of the smart objects, all right, both of them updated because it's the same one smart object. Because remember, I made a duplicate layer. It's the same smart object, and I brought in a different picture, but it has the same resulting, oil paint filter, Gaussian blur, ripple. All those things have been applied to, can be applied to this picture now. So what's cool about this is that I can do the resulting effect to one picture. And then if I like what I did, oh, this is terrible. If I like what I did and I want to apply it to other pictures, all I have to do is go into that smart object with a double click and then just keep adding the pictures one layer at a time and then just resaving this file over and over again as different file names. If I want to go that route with it. That's just one way to work. I've done that before with I took a bunch of pictures of what was it? It was conventioners. It was people in a convention and they wanted, this stylized look and they wanted like name badges with their face on it. So what we did is that we stylized one of them to get it to the look that they wanted. And um, once they were happy with that look, then we were able to do this where I can just go into the smart object and add another picture. Once I added that picture, you put that stylizing on that person's picture, save that, for them, and then do it again and again and again and again, and just saved each time. And it was kind of cool. So it makes kind of a cool little resulting effect. So yeah, this is it with Leia. All right. That's all I wanted to show you guys here when it comes to the filters. The filter application is kind of cool. It's kind of neat. Real fun in the application to apply it for what you need to do.